If you change your mind, take a chance, I'm the first in line. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me. If you need me, let me know. Gonna be around.
Well, hello, everybody. It's great to be here. Wow, that was loud, huh? My name is Victor Mitchell, and I am a candidate for governor, and it's just a pleasure to be here tonight. What a great crowd, and what a great event here. I appreciated that warm introduction. I don't think Abba's ever introduced me before, but that's a first. So I appreciate everybody coming here tonight, and people ask me all the time, Vic, well, why are you running as a candidate for governor? And the answer is pretty straightforward. You can be frustrated, you can be angry, you can be disillusioned, or you can put yourself out there and be part of the solution. You can step up and try to lead. My background, as he just introduced, has been an entrepreneur. Actually, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 21. I've built 6 companies over the last 30 years. And that's exactly the type of leadership we desperately need to move Colorado forward. My wife and I came here some 21 years ago, and it was actually never our intention to stay here. We started a company, and we fell in love with Colorado like so many people do. It became our forever home. In fact, 2 of our 3 kids have been born here. But Colorado's changing. There's some great challenges, of course, that we face in our state, but there's also some tremendous opportunities that we're not exploiting. And therefore, I think it's really important to get a businessman, an entrepreneur, to lead our state forward. But most importantly, I think it's very important to put big ideas forward, fresh ideas that will challenge the status quo and shake things up. And I thought I'd share a couple of them with you in the few minutes I have here tonight. When I was in the legislature some 10 years ago, there was roughly 1,000 businesses in Colorado that were regulated. We estimate today that there's between 3,000 and 3,500 businesses today that are now regulated. This is in over a period of 8 years. That's just not good enough. We had over 5,000 small businesses just in 2014 have closed their doors in Colorado. We've added 120,000 pages of new rules and regulations. My strategy is to bring outsiders similar to myself, but have no aspirations to run for office, that have deep private sector industry experience, and do a top-to-bottom review of our regulatory schemes and figure out which ones can be repealed entirely or changed. So we can start promoting entrepreneurship, business ownership again, take risks, get back our animal spirits that we once had before this current governor has led us so far to the left. The other issue I care very much about is health services. Our son is his second year right now at West Point. Last year we were at the Army-Navy game. Thank you. Last year we were at the Army-Navy game. I don't know if we have any Army veterans in here, but Army won for the first time in like 15 years. Go Army. And my wife had been and I have been supportive of a health clinic, a rural health clinic in Southern Virginia. So after the game, we said, why don't we just drive down there? It couldn't be that far. Well, it was some 400 miles away. And in this tiny little, what we saw was nothing less than a miracle. This tiny little health clinic is run entirely with nurse practitioners. They have basically no administrative overhead. They don't accept any insurance. They're servicing, this past year, they serviced 25,000 people. They're doing everything. They're screening for mental health. They're doing mammograms. They're doing colonoscopies. They charge $10 for a visit, $4 for a prescription drug voucher. And again, they don't accept any insurance. Their entire budget last year was $1.5 million, and they serviced 25,000 people. And I say this today because we've been in this binary debate for just too long about the Unaffordable Care Act or Trump Care. But we have to start figuring out ways to address the 40% of Coloradans today that either have insurance and can't afford their deductibles, or young people that have opted not to buy insurance at all. These types of, and I share this story with you because these are the types of innovations that are available today. They're happening all over the country. We have to figure out a way to get out of Medicaid entirely, which is blowing up our budget. And we have to figure out to do more with less as a state government. In fact, we've actually increased Colorado's budget by more than $10 billion over the last 10 years. So I'm putting forward very specific ideas to modernize our transportation system, to triple the amount of STEM graduates in Colorado. Right now we're graduating about 1 in 4 kids with science, technology, engineering, math. I want to triple that. I plan to freeze all college tuition for the entire term of my administration and also drive down the, thank you, and also try to drive down the high costs of affordable housing for kids. Some of our kids are paying upwards of $35,000 a year to go to an in-state tuition. It's just not good enough. My name is Victor Mitchell. I can tell you that there are a number of candidates, of course, in this race, but I'm the only candidate that has a unique set of both public and private sector experience. I served in the legislature, but I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. But most especially, I was raised by a 90% blind and deaf single mother. I know what it is to fight tremendous adversity. I also know what it is to rise up and become successful. And there's nothing wrong with being successful. We need to promote success again, not demonize it. And final, I just want to say something about my conservative credentials. I was actually the only person in this race, in the governor's race, that actually has a proven conservative voting record. I had an A+ rating with the NRA. I also am a pro-life practicing Catholic, and I'd love to see Colorado do a lot more to decrease the amount of abortions we have and increase the number of adoptions. So in final, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Thank you so much for all the people from out of state that are coming and promoting our economy here in Colorado. We very much appreciate you. We welcome you. And let's get started. Thank you so much. God bless. Have a great night.
All right, so Victor Mitchell is one of 4 gubernatorial candidates that we're going to have here at the Western Conservative Summit. And this is what I've said to all 4 of them. 2 years ago, there was one candidate that came, he worked the crowd, he got a booth, he spent some time. It was Darrell Glenn, and he was running for Senate. Now, when Darrell Glenn needed grassroots conservatives for support, they turned out big time for him, and he ended up winning the primary. So it's great to have so many gubernatorial candidates here with us. So what we're going to do throughout the weekend is they're going to get a 5-minute speech like Victor just had. Then they're going to be interviewed by my good friend Joey Bunch. Joey Bunch spent 14 years with the Denver Post, is now with coloradopolitics.com, and he's going to ask some questions and spend some time with each of the gubernatorial candidates so you get a sense of who they are and can make an informed decision during the next primary race next June. So we'll go ahead and start with Victor and Joey.
All right, Victor.
You want to sit down?
Yeah, let's do.
Okay.
Let's make yourselves comfortable. Take a nap.
These are very fancy. They're very fancy chairs.
Victor, I want to start with a couple of ground rules so that we can cover as much ground as possible and try to keep our answers concise, about 2 minutes, so we can go through several. Tonight's not a steak dinner at Elway's. It's more like the drive-through at Arby's. So, and I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but I think the curly fries know who they are. So, let's get started. The religious liberty is an issue that's very important to the Centennial Institute. It's very important to Colorado Christian. It's very important to the people in this crowd. But we as Americans believe in liberty for all. So where's the balance between religious liberty and preventing discrimination against LGBTQ people?
Well, thank you. I mean, I absolutely believe in all forms of religious liberty, and I also think we need to do a lot more for tort reform. And we got to stop all these kinds of lawsuits. If somebody doesn't want to serve a cake or something else, they should have that prerogative. But more importantly, there's a humanity to this. I mean, if there is legitimate discrimination, of course, there should be the right to sue, and they should pursue that. But there should be a shifting of costs. We've just become way too litigious as a society. I strongly believe in the First Amendment. I've always supported the First Amendment, and I think all forms of religious liberty should be adhered to. And if somebody doesn't want to serve or provide certain services based on their religious preferences, they should have the right to do that.
But can you speak to the rights of LGBTQ people? Where do their rights end?
You know, I mean, I believe in traditional marriage, although I generally support civil unions. And I think that their rights should be protected like every other American's rights should be protected, but they shouldn't be overreaching. I mean, we've had these kinds...
They're applauding for me.
The one that comes to mind is the bathroom incidents where, you know, transgender bathroom. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. There's about 1 in 300 people are identify themselves as transgender. We shouldn't be modifying our schools and everything else to accommodate transgender bathrooms. You can't even go now into a Starbucks and have a men's or a women's bathroom. So I think it's gone too far. But we should be respectful. They're just as much American and Coloradan as you and I are. But they've gone, in my opinion, they've gone a bridge too far.
Thank you for that answer. Probably the biggest issue facing Colorado, and anybody who drove here tonight knows this, is transportation and traffic jams. And in the last legislative session, thank you, in the last legislative session, legislators weren't able to do much on that. So what's your plan to address transportation? And if your answer is take it out of the existing budget, tell me where you're going to cut.
Well, I guess, how much time do we have here? 2 minutes, okay.
Remember, drive through at Arby's.
First and foremost, we have to replace the executive director of CDOT. He's a disaster. We got to bring in an outsider. We've got to bring in somebody that has worked in development and private industry for decades, somebody that has a deep love for Colorado, understands construction and development. CDOT actually has about $1.5 billion budget here in Colorado, but only about 1/3 of that, that's right, about $500 million a year actually goes into roads, construction, infrastructure. 2/3 of it is either in studies or in overhead. They have 3,300 employees today. So we have to reform all of CDOT, including their bidding process, the time it takes to build projects. We also have a legislative audit committee that's an obscure committee in the General Assembly. And I want to change that audit committee from financial auditing, which is basically determining if all the P's and Q's are right, whether your assets and liabilities match up, to performance auditing. It takes all the partisanship out of it and audits CDOT and figure out what right-size that department to how many employees they have. If we save just 3 to 4% by converting to performance auditing from financial auditing, that's $1 billion a year. $1 billion a year of extra that can go into transportation. The final thing I want to say about transportation is they also have about $1 billion on their books today of cash and cash equivalents. I'm going to deploy all of that. So by simply just reforming the way the system is done, there's as much as $2 billion that could be poured into transportation without any user fees or new taxes. We just have to do more. We have to be smarter about this. We have to be tougher about this. And we have to start delivering for the people of Colorado. I couldn't be more frustrated with the traffic jams myself. You can't even enjoy the great outdoors of our state on I-70. We have traffic congestion now. Yesterday from Boulder to Castle Rock, it took me 2.5 hours to get back. I mean, something has to be done, and I plan on doing something about it.
Well, you hit on spending, so let's talk about spending a minute. Medicaid. Medicaid rolls have tripled in Colorado over the last 10 years. And if Republicans aren't able to repeal or replace and/or Obamacare, we're looking at that federal match running out in a few years on an item that's already 40% of our state budget. What are you going to do about Medicaid?
Well, let's talk about Medicaid for a second. We've had a $640 million increase in Medicaid. And let's talk numbers. The Medicaid expansion now, if you earn more than $16,000 a year in Colorado, you're not eligible for Medicaid expansion. So what we've done now is we have about 40% of Coloradans between the millennials and the people that currently have insurance, mostly middle-income people here in Colorado, cannot afford to access high-quality, patient-centered care because they simply just can't meet their deductibles, even though they have insurance. We need to pull ourselves entirely out of the Unaffordable Care Act. I'm going to pull ourselves out of the exchange. I'm going to get Medicaid down to downsize. Hopefully Congress is going to do their job. Every single Republican, every single one of them, campaigned on repealing Obamacare. Why is this so difficult? I just don't understand it. We just lack leadership. I guess we don't have enough outsiders in there to do the right thing. But my plan is to build nurse practitioner clinics, high quality, low cost, affordable, accessible to everybody, and create block grants, to create entrepreneur block grants of physician assistants and nurse practitioners that can provide similar to the model that I described earlier in Southern Virginia. These types of innovations are available today. They do a lot. They can do a lot more than Medicaid. I mean, 85% of docs in Colorado don't even accept Medicaid. They don't even accept it. It's rationed, low-quality care. We just have to get out of it entirely. It's going to ultimately bankrupt our state.
Well, you've done such a good job of being concise on your other questions. Let me ask you one I think you're going to like. You've started a lot of businesses, very successful businesses in Colorado. What were the hurdles that you had to clear, and how can you clear those hurdles out for other people?
God, there's been so many hurdles I've had to overcome in my life. I mean, when my telecom company became one of the largest, most successful private telecom companies in the country, and I started it with $36,000, every single person told me it would not be successful. Every single. I had bankers telling me that. I had the major service providers telling me that. I had the retailers telling me that. So we've had to come over great obstacles. My current business today is a disruptive lending company that we displace banks, and we provide services to small developers. I mean, I've been told this my whole life, so make no question about it. The naysayers are going to say, we can't reform healthcare, we can't reform transportation. We can do it. We just need some imagination, we need some creativity. And also, we've become terribly risk averse. I mean, I'm never going to, if I'm fortunate enough to be your next governor, you can be rest assured I will never run for another office. I'm not indebted to any special interests, and I'm always going to put Colorado first. But that type of thinking is frankly what's needed to run our state.
But not everybody's as smart as you are. So how do you help the little guy start a small business?
We got to get regulations off people's backs. I mean, first and foremost, we've had 120,000 new pages of rules and regulations in Colorado since 2009, 120,000 pages. We're regulating 11-year-olds who want to play Little League baseball in Denver. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. We're crushing so many small businesses, and people they actually believe they can do better working in government. We've got to change that mindset. And we got to start promoting entrepreneurship, rewarding success, encouraging success. We've got to get user fees down. We've got to get regulations to the point where people say, you know what, you can get a decent return for the amount of risk that we're going to be putting forward. But this type of thinking is exactly what's needed. I hope to be the entrepreneur governor that rewards and recognizes many small businesses and encourages them. And you know what, it's also okay to fail. It's not terrible to fail. You learn a lot more from failures than you do from successes.
George, you've done a great job here. I think the people here at the, George, I'm sorry, Victor. You've done a great job here tonight, and I think the people will get to know you a little bit better. I'll know your name better next time, and I hope that we all become better friends over the next year and a half, because politics isn't war, it's volleyball, so let's play it that way. Thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet everybody. God bless.